In our haste to examine the pandemic that sweeps the globe, we have forgotten that we live in the last chapter of history. So maybe we should think a little more deeply about why this is happening at this moment in time. Why has this virus arisen at such a vulnerable time? Why are people and politicians reacting with such insanity? Why have we forgotten that evil never goes unpunished? I sense the hand of God in all of this, but I understand if you don't agree. However, it is undeniable that there is something unique going on. Welcome to the Shotcast. I'm John Little, recording on a cool Tainan evening on Wednesday, March 18th, 2020. Before going on, hit subscribe and click that bell to receive a notification when the next Shotcast happens. And if you like what you hear, hit that like button. All of that really helps get visibility for Megashock and the Shockcast, and if you didn't like it, well, you know what to do. Also, subscribe to the Shock Letter and receive my articles in your inbox at theshockletter.com. You can also find my posts on Facebook and Twitter. I have 2 books that you can read for free, for now. They're called When Jacob Returns and Ezekiel's Fire. And believe it or not, there are ways to keep the Shock Letter from going to the spam folder by following certain easy instructions. Oh, and there's a curated list of important articles on this topic in the main article on omegashock.com. You can find links for all of that below. Now, let's get back to today's topic. A perfect storm, final warning, or final judgment. We've all heard of a perfect storm. They've happened throughout history where a series of catastrophic events happen at just the right time to change the course of humanity. The plague of Justinian weakened 2 great empires just before the rise of Islam. The assassination of Archduke Ferdinand happened just as the imperial ambitions of France, Britain, Germany, and Russia were balanced on a knife edge. And the return of the children of Jacob to the land of Israel happened just as the Ottoman Empire was falling. All of that was God's intervention to bring us to this moment in time, and I believe that this might be another divine intervention. The hand of God is involved in this conflagration, but I don't know whether this is merely a warning or the beginning of judgment, or both. Then it has everything to do with our fragility. Take a moment to think about where we stand. Our economy is more global than at any other time, while also being the most complex and fragile in history. Our economy's lifeblood, the financial system, is equally global while teetering on the edge of complete breakdown. The center of all of that is the United States, which has never been more militarily powerful, while also being stretched so thin. All of this power and wealth encompasses a world population that has never been so large, while also being so vulnerable to disruption. And every bit of that is powered by a completely unprecedented level of energy production that is threatened with collapse. And then, to ensure that this is the most catastrophic era since the flood, we have never been more morally bankrupt than we are right now. We truly stand at the doorstep of apocalypse, not the apocalypse of John, also known as the book of Revelation, but an apocalypse or revelation that will reveal the weak and corrupt foundations of our civilization. The very act of this revelation of weakness will unleash a firestorm of financial destruction, followed by economic upheaval, and then cataclysmic war. That is the abyss that our civilization stares into right now. We are literally teetering on the edge of the chasm that all great civilizations have fallen into. And many of us wonder if the Wuhan coronavirus, or COVID-19, is spreading hysteria at just the right time to make this collapse happen. The timing of this virus outbreak is so perfect, I can only sit back and wonder at it. Is this another Archduke Ferdinand moment that launched World War I and started the destruction of the European empires to make way for the American empire? Is this another plague of Justinian that marked the beginning of the end of the Byzantine and Persian empires to make way for Islam? I would say yes. except for the possibility that this might be just a final warning before God's judgment falls upon us. We won't know until we see evidence of real recovery. And yes, I really mean it when I say God's judgment. We have become so evil and so corrupt that God would need to apologize to Sodom and Gomorrah for destroying them, when we have proven ourselves to be worse than they. At least with Sodom and Gomorrah, their corruption was limited to their own little valley. Not so America. America has spread her corruption around the world, even so far as to get to far-flung corners like Taiwan. Then yes, I truly believe that we have hit the limits of how much evil God will tolerate. It really is only a matter of time before the Lord proclaims game over. And I find it very strange that so few Christians understand this. Christians have forgotten that God does not change. Is this why our churches have become carnal and disobedient? The list of reasons is long, but it should be utterly clear that our churches have become dens of iniquity. We tolerate and encourage a level of sin that is beyond my ability to comprehend. Just a glimpse at the facts should be more than enough. The divorce rate among Christians is only a little lower than non-Christians. Women who claim to be Christian are murdering their unborn children only a little less than those who do not claim to follow Christ. Christians are engaging in adultery and fornication at levels that we have never seen in 2,000 years. Worse, we send out missionaries into the world to teach and preach our disobedience and sinfulness. I have met far too many of them, and I am appalled. Just take a look at my own situation where I live in Taiwan, in the city of Tainan. Of the several English-speaking missionaries that are leading churches in this city, every one of them is in direct disobedience to God. Every single one. I have to travel 2 hours to find a church service that actually tries to follow what the Bible says. Our corrupt churches and corrupt missionaries are a blasphemy against God, and there is a limit to how much of this damage to His holy name that God will tolerate. Why do we call ourselves Christian if we refuse to submit to what God says? The following verse reverberates throughout the Bible, quote, "For the time has come that judgment must begin at the house of God, and if it first begin at us, what shall the end be of them that obey not the gospel of God?" 1 Peter 4:17. Do you understand this? Judgment begins in the house of God. It starts with us. We are the ones that God will come to first. And those among us who have sinned greatly will suffer greatly. Then we will deserve every bit of that judgment. And that judgment will not end there. After it comes to us, judgment will come for the rest of the world, for the evil that they have done. And we see the seeds of this judgment in the world's response to the Wuhan coronavirus. Why are we in such a panic? I'm not saying that we should not take reasonable precautions to avoid contracting such a nasty virus. I do this every year during the flu season. I don't touch my face when I'm out and about, and I wash my hands when I come home. But shutting down an entire economy, are they insane? Well, yes. Proverbs 28:1 says this, quote, "The wicked flee when no man pursueth, but the righteous are bold as a lion." Proverbs 28:1. The wicked are fleeing. They are in absolute panic, and their panic will do far, far more damage than this virus would ever do. But what does Proverbs say about the righteous? They will be as bold as a lion. If you need an example of righteous boldness, go to an article that I wrote a month ago. It's called "The Wuhan Coronavirus, a Wuhan Pastor Responds." Link will be available below. That is boldness. In the midst of a city that was terrified, a Christian pastor was not. And his example should be our example. Are you an example of the peace of God? Or are you an example of how the wicked flee? But unfortunately, far too many of our churches are full of the wicked, and it's depressing to see. I can hardly believe how awful we have become. But these are the last days, so I should not be so surprised. What concerns me now is the road ahead. This moment will either mark the beginning of a global depression or it will be just another warning. Global, civilization-destroying depression is coming. The only question is timing, and I am notoriously bad at timing. The one person who is good at timing is Martin Armstrong, and he is in the process of creating a report on what he sees happening financially in the months and years ahead. That report will be titled Coronavirus and Next Great Depression: The Insanity of Caution. I have a link where you can find it below, and it will be offered for $10, and it will be worth every penny. I am bad at timing. Martin Armstrong is not. So please pay attention to what he says. The only thing that Martin Armstrong leaves out of his calculations is the collapse of energy production. And I believe that the coming greatest depression will finally reveal how dire our situation is. When that happens, civilization as we know it will fall. All empires eventually fall, and America will be no different. Unfortunately, the fall of America will bring years, even decades, of chaos. The only question is how fast America will fall and when it will happen. We have sinned against God. Judgment is coming. That's it for this Shockcast. If you appreciated this video, hit like, then hit subscribe and that little bell. Also leave a comment. I look forward to seeing what you have to say about what was said here. Your input is truly welcome. You can also get my articles and updates in your inbox through the Shock Letter at theshockletter.com. And read my books for free, When Jacob Returns and Ezekiel's Fire. They just might save your life.